Welcome to London Pride 2010, presented by Lavish. I'm your host, Rachel Gilbert. The 28th Annual London Pride Festival has been an exciting 11 days full of celebratory, cultural, artistic, and educational events that really brought London's LGBT community together. We're so pleased this year to be able to bring you highlights of this year's Pride Festival, as well as the 16th Annual London Pride Festival Parade. Last year, longtime Halo president Richard Hudler was named as the parade Grand Marshal. For over 30 years, Hudler has been involved in the gay movement in Ontario and was instrumental in starting the first London Pride celebration in 1982. He recalls the emotional feeling of the first Pride March in 1995.
In 95, I didn't know how much support we'd have for the first march, and I was frightened, and I was inside Halo, and I looked out and saw that crowd, and it made me so happy.
Welcome back to London Pride 2010, presented by Lavish. Well, the Pride flag is flying high again at City Hall for the fourth year. This is the second year it's been raised on the community flagpole in Reg Cooper Square. London's gay community has had a long history that's included some very important events, not only here in London, but for the broader gay community. And the Pride Library at UWO has been archiving those events and collecting literature for over the past 13 years. And its collection is truly remarkable.
The Pride Library began in 1997 when I discovered that the holdings for gay and lesbian literature at the University Library, the Weldon, really was insufficient for the kinds of courses that I wanted to teach. So I donated 80 books to a shelf in my own office, then in University College Tower, hired a work-study student to keep it open one afternoon a week, and my books really supplemented the university collection.
Professor Miller's book collection caught the attention of members of the Homophile Association of London, Ontario, or HALO, who were looking for a place to donate their boxes of social history documents and books. This prompted Miller to attain a grant from the University of Western Ontario.
I was granted a research center status, and because we became a research center and had an official title and were under the aegis of the university, donations started to pour in, and we started with the 80 books I donated and the 200 or so books from the Halo Library, and now, 13 years later, the collection's approaching 8,000 volumes.
The Pride Library is now located in the Weldon Library at Western and sectioned off from the rest of the library by a beautiful stained glass window done by London artist Lynette Richards.
I decided it would make a lot of sense to have a commemorative window or some commemorative art object to celebrate the great achievements of Halo in the early years following the liberation movement in the 70s. There is also a whole series of names inscribed in the glass who are authors whose books can be read in the Pride Library. I felt it was important for anyone coming into the Pride Library to be connected with the great cultural achievements of gay and lesbian people and trans folk and bisexuals through the centuries. So to advertise that fact, to proclaim it proudly, I thought the wall behind my desk could make the statement much more eloquently than I could through words. And the background just grew and grew. There's now 120 images. They include famous gay authors like Oscar Wilde and Walt Whitman and Gore Vidal, famous lesbian authors like Gertrude Stein, a trans author like Jan Morris, bisexual authors are also represented, and I even have an honorary straight author. I don't know whether you can see behind me this particular face. That's the face of Dante, who wrote the Inferno, and he's included as a kind of honorary Pride Library author because of his very sympathetic treatment of the sodomites in the 15th and 16th cantos of the Inferno. So a wide variety of faces to remind people that gays and lesbians are unique individuals. Their contributions have been extraordinary through the centuries and will continue to be, and we have a great deal to be proud about our cultural heritage.
Just inside the doors of the Pride Library are the Hudler Archives, in honor of longtime Halo president Richard Hudler. Above the archives hangs the Pride Proclamation that Hudler fought the City of London so hard for.
One of the missions of the Pride Library is, of course, to document the history of the queer community in this city and in southwestern Ontario. And a very significant event was the issuing of a proclamation in the late 1990s to Richard Hudler, who took London City Council and the mayor to Human Rights Tribunal when Mayor Diane Haskett refused to grant a proclamation for Gay Pride Week in the mid-90s. And Richard Hudler and Halo won the tribunal hearings, and we have a framed copy of that proclamation that was bestowed upon Richard at a ceremony in the late 1990s.
The Pride Library contains a variety of collections that cover every aspect of the gay, lesbian, bisexual, and trans community.
The Pride Library now at 8,000 volumes contains works that are very popular, even works that have been censored in the past, all the way to the most academic, legal books, books of theory. So I really thought it was very important in this collection to make it as diverse as possible. We have a large trans collection, for instance, as well as a collection of bisexual materials, collections relevant to, for instance, lesbian romances, gay politics, you name it. We now pretty well have books that cover it. But there really are some materials that stand out in the collection.
I find our sex manual collection most interesting because it's very diverse. It represents all aspects of one's sexuality, almost all aspects of it. And no other library has such a collection.
Sex manuals often are very revealing of the attitudes of the periods in which they were produced, and were often homophobic in the previous period. So they're included, for the most part, in what I call the homophobic classics collection.
One very large donation was received from a London family about 3 years ago that is now kept together in a special collection known as the Closet Library.
This is a collection of 1,200 gay pulp novels from the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, all collected and owned by one man in London who kept them pretty well hidden in his basement. What we've done, because the cover art on gay pulp is so amusing and sometimes so sensational, my library staff and I picked the 18 most amusing covers, scanned them and blew them up as posters, which are now on the walls above the Closet Library. So that's definitely a highlight of the collection.
Miller has encountered some resistance to the Pride Library over the years, but the support of Western and the students is what keeps the space open.
Well, from the very beginning, the students at Western have really embraced the idea of the Pride Library. They've really taken it to their heart. First of all, by giving books. I mean, students have limited income, so one doesn't expect them to be major donors. But collectively, through the years, undergraduates in particular have been an amazing source of books. Also for book suggestions and bibliographies. So students have helped at a donation level. More importantly, though, the staffing at the Pride Library has primarily been student from the beginning.
Although the library is located on campus, it's open to anyone in the community who wants to use it.
I would recommend the Pride Library as a space for anyone to come and visit because queer culture is present everywhere, whether it is out in the open or whether it is silenced. And inevitably, in one's life, one is going to encounter someone who is queer or has queer friends or allies. And I think it's very important to be educated about at least the existence of queer communities.
The Pride Library is open year-round, and Professor Miller encourages anyone to come take a look at its extensive collections.